Bonjour, y'all. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are on our way to the consulate office in Marseille, where we will speak to the consulates there so that you can know exactly what those offices do and the services they provide to immigrants and expats from the U.S. I'm Dawn if you're new to the channel, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back and welcome to our adventures today, Marseille. Please note that when you do come to the consulate office, you will either need to bring your passport or, if you have lost your passport, some form of picture ID before you'll be allowed to enter. Hey everyone, we're here today with 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢 from the U.S. Embassy in Paris.
Yes.
And he's going to talk to us today about the embassy and what some of the things are that the embassy can do to help Americans who are living here in France. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢. I'm the American Citizen Services Chief at the U.S. Embassy in Paris. So our team in Paris works with our consulates and our American presence posts in France to provide services to U.S. citizens, generally related to the U.S. government.
Okay, and so kind of like how do you get that post? How do you get that position? Where are you originally from?
I grew up near Chicago.
Okay.
I've been in the Foreign Service for 19 years.
Wow.
And so our Foreign Service officers serve both domestically and overseas, helping U.S. citizens in this kind of work. This is a job where lots of people have to come to France, and so we make sure we have a large team here in Paris and here in France to help out. Foreign Service officers serve at all of our embassies and consulates overseas.
Oh, wow.
And one of the most important goals for the U.S. government is to take care of our citizens overseas. And so we make sure that our American Citizen Services teams are well staffed so we can help out.
Okay, and you're based out of Paris?
That's right.
Okay, and like how many people do you have in your office?
It's a large office. We have teams in American Citizen Services, some that focus on passports, consular reports of birth abroad for U.S. citizens who are born overseas, and then another part of our office works on special cases for U.S. citizens who might need more help because something's gone wrong or they need help back in the United States, in which I do that work for them.
Okay, and so your particular office is in Paris, so does it just service people who live in Paris or near Paris, or anybody? Any American that lives in France?
Yeah, it's a good question. So in France, we have the U.S. Embassy in Paris, we have the U.S. Consulate General in Marseille, and we have an office in Strasbourg as well, who can do passports and do American Citizen Services. Our office, the Consular Affairs out of Paris, does everything for the entire country of France, but we know if you live in Nice, for example, you might not be able to get up to Paris and you need your passport. So we have a team down here in Marseille, for example, to help out and serve this area of the country as well.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So tell us, what services do you all provide for Americans that live in France?
We provide a lot of services that touch the U.S. government.
Okay.
Most often, we provide services for U.S. citizens either living here or traveling here who need to renew their passports. So all passport renewals are done out of our embassy in Paris. And we also do emergency passports if someone loses their passport or something like that, where we need to provide a more immediate service for them as well.
Okay. What are the most common services you find that Americans come to your office needing help?
It's generally passports.
Okay.
Sometimes people lose a passport because they're traveling, it's misplaced, it's stolen. Sometimes people come in because they're looking for information on voting or things like that. And so we have a lot of resources for them as well to help them make sure that they can vote in the United States and take care of other services.
So let's talk about those two things specifically, because I tend to see in a lot of the boards that's like passport, freaking out, oh, I lost my passport, where I do. Yeah. What would be a typical process, or how quickly can that be done? So if I, lost my passport and I need to go back to the U.S. for a visit next week or in 2 weeks.
Right.
Can you explain how that, what service you provide and how the process will be?
Yeah, the process starts with an email to our team so that we can kind of triage the need for the passport. Some people are traveling the same day and they need to go back to the United States. So we often can get them
in. So you do same day? Oh, wow. Okay.
In certain circumstances, yeah. But like you mentioned, if someone's got 2 weeks or 3 weeks before they're traveling, we can generally get them in and get them a full validity passport so that they can travel and then keep that passport for the next 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's our most common service.
And would that be, like if I'm not going to say Nice because I know there's one closer, but let's say I'm somewhere not in Nice, would I have to go to Paris?
It depends. We do services in Paris, we do services in Strasbourg, and we do services in Marseille.
Okay. So there's not, whichever one I tend to go to, it doesn't matter. So if I decide I want to go to Paris to get that done, I can. Even if I live in Nice or if I decide I want to go to Marseille, it's closer. I can go to Marseille and get that done.
Yeah, we try to be helpful. We all work very closely
Gotcha.
together. If you've got time to plan, then we're going to work with you to make sure we can get you in for Passport the most convenient spot. If you're in a rush because you're traveling the next day, again, send us an email. Our team stays on that very carefully. We monitor. Like I said, we get some people in same day if they're traveling that day or the evening.
And is there a fee for that?
It's a normal passport fee. There's no fee specifically for coming in for an appointment.
Okay, wonderful. And so the other thing I do want to talk about, is how you all help when it comes to voting and voting from abroad.
Sure.
Because of course that's a big issue.
Right.
I had an issue a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So I voted. I sent my ballot in. My ballot was sent.
Okay.
I verified that they received it, but it was never counted. So I know that you guys can't do anything about it on that end.
Right.
But what is it that you can do for those of us as time is, getting near with the midterms coming in? How do you and how can you help Americans living abroad with getting their ballots to do their specific things?
So we can send ballots back to the U.S., but the most important thing for U.S. citizens living abroad to know is how to register with us so that we can share information as it comes out. So if there are any changes, we can make sure that you have the information and know what the resources are.
Okay.
So the first resource is to register with STEP, which is the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program.
Oh.
If you're living overseas or you're traveling overseas and you enroll with this program, you'll receive the alerts that the U.S. Embassy or Consulate sends out if you're in the zone that you've registered for.
Okay.
So if you're living in France, for example, and we receive new guidance from the government regarding voting, we will send that out to our staff channel so people will receive that information or other information such as travel restrictions, or if there's an event coming up that we want people to be aware of, we can share that through STEP.
Okay, and so is that a process that's just you go online?
Yeah, you go on yourself. Yeah, and you can do that from our website, either from travel.state.gov or from the U.S. Embassy in Paris website as well. All the links are there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I learned something new today because I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and if you want information specifically on voting, there's a website called FVAP.gov, which is the Federal Voting Assistance Program.
Okay.
And if you register there, you'll receive all the information for voting in upcoming elections for your state specifically as well, right? Because each state does it different.
Right,
And
absolutely.
so we want to make sure you get the right guidance. And so our job is to link you up with those resources.
Gotcha.
And so we do that through the STEP program, through our social media accounts, through our website, and through programs like FVAP.
Oh, wonderful. So for any services that you provide, how can people find you?
Yeah, the best place to start
Yes.
is with our website, the
Okay.
U.S. Embassy in Paris website.
Okay.
From there, we have great information. You can also subscribe to our social media
Okay.
because we're always sharing information there. as
You're on
well.
Instagram.
We're on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
We're on
big.
WhatsApp as well. We have a
Okay.
WhatsApp group as
Okay.
well for American citizens.
Okay.
And if you go to our website, you can just scan and code
Oh,
and join our
wow.
WhatsApp group, and we share information there as well
Okay.
for U.S. citizens in France.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you. Is there any service or anything that I haven't touched on that you find Americans need to know about that they may not be aware of? Is there anything, any other kind of situation or circumstances that you guys help with that maybe, I know we're talking about the voting and
Yeah.
we're talking about the passports, and those seem to be the two main dots.
Yeah,
Everything else is kind of like, special or case by case.
sure. I mean, I think our website has a lot of great information
Okay.
because there are things you might not think about, like you might need a doctor and not be familiar with the medical system in France. We do a list of doctors on our website that you might want to look into. I would say the best thing is to register with STEP.
Okay.
Because if you're registered with the Smart Traveler Program,
Yes.
then if we send information out and you need to have the information, it's there for you. The other thing I would say too is be proactive, right? If something happens and you need help, reach out to us.
Okay.
We're on social media, we're on WhatsApp, we're on, all the other platforms so people can find us, and let your family know what's going on too. Because sometimes your family might reach out and not know what's going on, and if you can make contact with them directly, that's helpful for them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being here today and explaining everything so people can know exactly what embassy does and we don't get confused between the different organizations and who does what and who does what.
Yeah.
So I thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
And I enjoyed meeting you.
Yeah,
and I learned a lot today too myself.
I'm glad.
Okay, great. I'm going to do it today.
Good.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today. We have Sarah Wardwell with the U.S. Consulate General in Marseille.
That's right.
Little trick. It took me a couple times to get that right. But I am so glad to have her here today because I know that there are a lot of you that need to know, especially those of us that maybe live in Nice, everyone, but for those of us that live in Nice, since that's where I am based, where do we go when certain things happen? And I think that a lot of, and Sarah and I have talked, that a lot of Americans are confused about where to go, or they don't really know where to go when it comes to certain things. So today, ma'am, I would like to talk to you and let everyone know a little bit about yourself, your position, where you're from, and what is it that you do with the office.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. It is such a pleasure. So I am the consul here in Marseille. So if your passport is lost or stolen, you need to renew a child's passport, I am here to help you. The whole reason that embassies and consulates exist is actually to help Americans. And so I like to say that we are here to help you on your best days and your worst days. We do everything from birth to death. So new babies being born, we love to see them and help them with their citizenship. But we also help with all the different life events that happen along the way, including when an American passes away overseas.
Oh, okay. Okay. We might need to touch on that because I do know someone who recently passed away and had just moved here. So I think that that may be something that we might want to touch on a little bit later to kind of know what that process is.
Sure.
So for you, what are the main services that you find, the most common ones that Americans need help with?
Yeah, so the most common is passports.
Okay.
You know, everyone needs a passport to be here.
Okay.
If your passport expires and it needs to be renewed, adults can just renew by mail. It's super easy. You don't need an appointment. It's very easy. Children, we do need you to make an appointment. Both parents need to appear.
Okay.
We need the birth certificate. So that takes a little more planning.
Right.
But we can also help if your passport's lost or stolen while you're here, either on a long or a short stay.
Oh, okay. So let's just say that I decide I'm going to go to Italy for a hot second, go to the market on Friday.
Sounds nice.
And then I realized, I somehow, some way lost my passport.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are the steps that I need to go through with you to be able to get that passport back, or not back, but get a new passport?
Yeah. So the first step I always take the first thing I always recommend to people is are you safe? So if you're safe and the rest of your belongings are accounted for, that's the most important thing, of course. If you need to file a police report, especially if something was stolen, then you are, of course, welcome to do that. We don't require a police report in order to get you a new passport. Then send us an email. We check our emails. We're very careful to stay on top of our emails. If it's an emergency and it happens overnight, we do have a duty officer who answers the phone.
Oh, wow.
But we won't be able to print a new passport usually until during business hours. So we will ask you to make an appointment, come in, and bring whatever identification you still have. So if you have a driver's license, copy of your old passport, that helps. There's a form you'll fill out. You can do it ahead of time. You can make your payment online. So you can come in with everything pretty much queued up.
Okay.
We have a photo booth here in Marseille at the consulate. So if you come in with all your paperwork, but you didn't get a chance to get a photo, or you couldn't find a photo booth to do the right size photo, you can take care of that here. And we can get it printed and get you back on your way.
Okay. So what if I lost it on a Friday and I have to travel out of France, let's say back to the US on a Saturday?
That's really stressful. I would recommend you change your flight, honestly, because you're not going to be allowed to board a flight without a passport.
Right.
And the reality is we are only a few people here, and so we can't offer services over the weekends in most situations. Obviously, if it's life or death, I will make things happen because I really believe in public service and I'm really here to serve the American people.
Gotcha.
But for most situations, if your passport's lost and you're trying to travel on a weekend or you lost it on a Friday, I would recommend changing your flight, and then we'll try to get you in. We can print the new passport the same day.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. Okay, great. Okay, so if it's not on a weekend, if I'm trucking it like I did today, get on the train, come to Marseille, I can send all the stuff in ahead of time, then come to Marseille. You can actually print the passport that Monday if I'm traveling on Tuesday, and I'll have it for Tuesday. Okay, great. That's good to know.
Yeah,
we try.
Super service.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And then I think you also mentioned, I know we talked about a little bit about the voting. And so let everyone know what services you would provide in regards to those of us that are very much wanting to make sure that we vote and our votes get where they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. Well, we have a little ballot collection box. We will mail it back with a diplomatic pouch. So you don't need an appointment. You can bring your ballot. I do recommend that you verify that it's fully filled out because we're not going to check anything that you've done. But we will mail it for you. And we have a little collection box here. So the guard, you can drop it with the guards and then we will mail it for you.
So let me ask you this question. What is the difference between if I mail it myself to the post office or I give it to you guys to mail it on my behalf?
Yeah, so if you mail it with us, we will send it through the diplomatic pouch and it will actually get tracked and it will get a barcode on it. So that's the main difference, but you're obviously welcome to use La Poste or the French mail system as well. DHL,
I think I'd rather use you guys, especially with the tracking. I want to circle back because when we were talking and you were talking about the death certificates, which is never a great topic to talk about, but what does happen in that case where, and let me just give this scenario of, there was a lady that I met. She was also, she also moved to France and she was here by herself and recently passed away. And she did not have anybody here. And luckily there was another woman that kind of knew her. But in a scenario like that, I think maybe she just had a son back in the US.
Yeah.
When something like that happens, what kind of services can your office provide if that should happen in regards to either getting that person back to the US or contacting someone there on their behalf? What can your office provide and what do people have to do to be able to have the information there for you guys to use it for that purpose?
Yeah, so it is really unfortunate that Americans do pass away overseas. We are here to support the next of kin and the families during those difficult times. The support we offer really depends on what the family needs. Our website has a lot of information about what the French processes are for cremation or embalming, or if you wish to repatriate your loved one. We also have a list of funeral homes. So that's usually the first place to start, is to find a funeral home. We have lists that include funeral homes broken down by the different part of the country where your loved one might have been, as well as whether or not they have an English speaker. And so usually the funeral homes, they actually take care of most of most of the work. And we don't endorse any of them, but they are kind of the intermediary. And what we'll do is provide your loved one with a consular report of death abroad, which can be used to close up affairs in the United States.
Gotcha. Okay, so you guys, it's not a death certificate.
It's a death certificate, but the French will also issue a death certificate. The French will issue 2 death certificates, an administrative one and a medical one. And ours will be in English that you can use to, banking and things in the back of the United States.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, that's great to know. That's a good thing to know, because I think I've had consultations with many women who are moving over here and they're single. And they're moving over here and they may have a son, a daughter, or relatives back in the US, but that's something that's good for them to know, to give them a little comfort that there are some services here that, in case that should happen, God forbid, but that there are some services here that they can register for or make sure that they're aware of.
Absolutely. I mean, the most important thing is, of course, to stay in touch with your loved ones so that then if they haven't heard from someone in a couple of days, they can always reach out to us.
Okay.
And we can try to help you get back in touch.
Gotcha. I wanted to ask a question. So does your office specifically serve a certain region?
Yeah.
Okay. So explain that to me.
So the way we have divided up what we call our consular district is that I cover basically from Spain to Italy, including Monaco and Corsica.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Wonderful. That's
But of
good
course,
to know.
if an American needs help or they want to come in for their passport because we're closer or it's easier to get into to Marseille than it is to Paris, we are, of course, happy to help.
Okay. So you answered my next question. Okay. It's not like, okay, well, you're not in this region, so you have to go. Okay, wonderful.
We try not to be overly bureaucratic.
Thank you. So Sarah, can you please clarify for us, because I know there's a big difference in coming in and getting an emergency passport and then you just lost your passport and you need to get it replaced and it's not an emergency situation. Let us know the little fine print, you should say, in regards to if someone needs an emergency passport. So if you can give me the scenario, if I need to go to the US, there's a death in the family and I lost my passport and I need to get an emergency passport. Tell me how that works.
Yeah. So the first thing we'll ask you is, when are you traveling? If you're traveling in the next 7 days, we're going to issue you an emergency passport. Now, one thing that's really important to know about the emergency passport is that we'll let you into the United States, but you cannot return into France on an emergency passport. So there's certain countries in the world, including France, that don't allow you to enter on a US emergency passport. So as long as you're going to be back in the United States long enough to renew your passport there, then that works out fine. So you'll go back to the United States for your, death in the family, for example, and you'll renew your passport in the United States. It's free of charge as long as you renew it within the 1 year of your emergency passport being issued. Now, if you are traveling and let's say you're here in France, you realize you lost your passport, but you're here another 2-3 weeks, we're actually going to go ahead and give you a full validity passport. And for that, it's the same process. You're going to make the appointment online. You're going to fill out the same form online. You're going to get your photo. You're going to make a payment online. When you come in for your appointment, I'll ask, when are you traveling? You say a couple of weeks, leave an envelope with us with a mailing address. So if there's an Airbnb that you're at where you can collect mail, hotels will usually let you collect mail, or you're welcome to return and pick it up. As soon as we get that full validity passport, you'll be good to travel again. And then you can travel freely anywhere in the world where the US passport is accepted. Okay.
So let me just make it clear. So if I have to get an emergency passport and I'm going to the US, I cannot come back here to France on that emergency passport.
That's right.
I'm going to have to stay in the US until I get my regular passport.
That's right. Or wait here in France until we can get you the full validity passport and then travel, depending on the situation.
Right. But if it's a situation where, if it's a death and it's a funeral and I have to go, I'm going to have to just wait it out in the US and get the regular, because I'm not going to be able to come back into France on the emergency passport.
Right.
So the emergency passport is basically to allow you out. But not back in.
It allows you into the United States.
Right. So I'm saying it's allowing me to go out of France to the US, but it's not allowing me to come back in unless I have my actual passport.
That's right.
Okay.
Unless you're a dual citizen of another country.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
And I would say don't worry about all of this fine print either. If you were in a situation where you've lost your passport or it was stolen, most people are really kind of worked up about these kinds of things. Just write to us and explain the situation and we will help you figure out the rest. So you don't need to say, I need a full validity passport or an emergency passport. We'll help you figure all that out. And it's the same form.
Okay. And so in regards to that, people losing their passports, how often does that actually happen?
More often than you would think. Every single day. Every single day.
And what are the scenarios you would say most people have lost it?
Well, it makes me really sad. Most people are here visiting and they're enjoying themselves, or they're living here and they let their guard down, because France is a very safe country. And most of us come to France. We're very excited to be here, especially the beautiful Côte d'Azur. So maybe you leave your bag on the beach while you go for a swim. You come back and your bag isn't there. Maybe you were on the train and you were so excited to go on your trip to Paris that you put your bag overhead, you went to the bathroom and you came back and it was gone. Also, you'd be surprised the number of people that get off the plane and somehow leave their belongings off the plane. And the airlines don't let you back on to get it. So it's really a case that a lot of the time, it's taking care of your belongings and making sure it's with you at all times. The other thing that happens though is I would say to be really careful with rental cars.
I lose my passport. What do I do? What are the steps?
So you'll write to us and tell us you need an emergency passport appointment and we'll make it happen.
Okay, so I write to you, I need an emergency. Well, no, I write to you, I've lost my passport. Not an emergency passport, just a regular. I went to the beach, don't know why I took it, didn't need to take it, and left it, and something happened and it's gone. So now I need to replace it.
Right.
So I do what?
Yeah, so you're going to write to us. You're going to say, I lost my passport and I need a new passport. And I'm not traveling anytime in the future. We'll still have you come in for an appointment. We'll ask you to bring any identification documents you still have, like your driver's license, birth certificate, something like that. And then we'll have you fill out the form. Again, you can do it online ahead of time, make a payment ahead of time. You can even get your photo taken ahead of time. If you come in fully prepared, you don't need to plan on being here very long. You'll come in, drop your documents, sign in front of the consular officer, which is me, and get on your way. And then we'll mail you your passport back.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's just that simple.
It's
simple and easy.
simple,
Okay, well, that's great. Well, that's good to know. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much because, there's one question.
That's what I'm here for.
What does the consulate not handle?
That's a great question.
See, that's where a lot of Americans get confused and who and what can handle what. And of course, some people think that you guys, in some kind of way, shape, form, or fashion, may be able to touch on visas, especially. So I'm sure I gave way to what the answer is by saying that. But what do you not handle, your office, or you cannot handle?
Yeah, so all visas for foreigners wanting to enter the United States are handled in Paris. We don't do any visas, but we don't get involved in anything involving the French government's processes for long stay visas or anything like that. For all of those affairs, you'll need to directly deal with the French government.
Okay, so hear that, everybody? They do not deal with visas. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This was very informational. I'm sure a lot of people watching the video will be glad to know that some of these services they didn't know existed are here for them so that they can feel a little bit more, safe in having resources that, instead of trying to figure it out through misinformation, we now have it straight from the actual office on what you can handle and what you cannot handle. So thank you and thank Jay for being here today. And I will catch you all on the next video. Bye.